Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Sean from All Things EV, and this video is a quick recap of Tesla's shareholder meeting that took place earlier today. I want to go through some of the highlights and some of the things that I thought were really noteworthy. There were some incredibly interesting points and insight made about the future of Tesla. All right, so the first thing that they said was that the Model 3 is outselling all competition combined. The next thing that they mentioned was Model 3 is the best-selling car by revenue of any car in the US. And this actually should terrify some of these traditional automakers like Toyota and Honda, because they sell a lot of sedans and I guess SUVs as well. But some of the most popular vehicles that they sell are some of the most best-selling. And this should terrify them because you've got this electric vehicle car company, and not only that, you have this luxury vehicle that's selling for $40,000 and up that is starting to erode at these lower priced vehicles. And if they don't come up with something, this is going to be really, really bad news for them. In fact, I know that Toyota and Honda do not have anything to show for any sort of electric powertrain. This is not good for them. I know that Toyota was recently in the news with this lineup of electric vehicles, but they're quite far behind there. The next one did not come as too much of a surprise. I saw a chart on this earlier this week. Model 3 outselling the Mercedes C-Class, BMW 3 Series, Audi A4, Lexus IS in terms of units. Number of units. This is looking bad for both lower priced cars and equally priced cars. And this is the crazy thing here is that these are gasoline vehicles. This is not Tesla eroding away at other electric vehicle competitors. This is Tesla eroding away market share at their luxury competitors. And this is something really, really fascinating to watch and to keep a close eye on. If Tesla continues to do this, and these other automakers, these luxury automakers, do not come out with something that is comparable with range and performance and software. Elon goes on to say that no EV has exceeded the range of the 2012 Model S. I think he's talking about the 85 kilowatt-hour Model S, which is it's impressive. It's I truly don't understand why these automakers who are making EVs don't have EVs that have range that are more competitive. He said that this is a really good one that was a little bit of a tease and a morsel of something I think that is going to be coming very, very soon. He said, quote, "It won't be long before we have a 400-mile range car," end quote. You know, my thought is you don't talk about that unless it's about to happen. And so continues on to say 90% of orders are coming from non-reservation holders. That's no surprise to me. They don't really have a reservation list that they're working with or from at the moment. He also said that 63% of trade-ins are non-premium cars. I mean, this is actually a really, really big deal as well. And as I mentioned before, Tesla is not only eroding market share from their fellow luxury competitors, but they're eroding market share from these lower priced vehicles that Honda and Toyota make. So fantastic for Tesla. Bad news bears for Toyota and Honda, and really all of the luxury car makers. He says Model Y demand will be better than S, X, and 3 combined. We might be able to get the drag coefficient lower than the Model 3. So no real surprise here. I believe he said this on a most recent earnings call that Model Y demand will be greater than S, X, and 3 combined. But drag coefficiency better than Model 3. That, to me, is really, really interesting. I would love to hear and learn more about that. He says that Model Y volume will hit in fall of 2020. Their internal goal is a little bit sooner, so it's possible that they could start producing things. Now, one thing to key into here is that's volume production. So that possibly means that they're going to start production of the Model Y sometime in the summertime of 2020, which is great. The more of these that get on the road, I think the better, because it really is a fantastic car. I had a chance to see it in person this past March, ride in it, and it's true what he says in this shareholder meeting that the true mark of a great design of a vehicle is that it feels bigger on the interior than it looks from the outside looking in. They are actively searching for a location for Gigafactory 4 in Europe. A decision on this will happen by the end of the year. This makes a lot of sense. Tesla's goal from the very beginning was to have a Gigafactory on every continent. He reiterated this in this meeting today, and this ultimately should reduce the cost of cars for everyone and shorten the transit time for these vehicles being shipped, because right now they're making them in Fremont and they're shipping them to Europe. Soon they'll finish the Shanghai Gigafactory and they'll be able to produce cars there for the Chinese and Asian market. And he also mentioned that they might potentially make another Gigafactory in China because it is such a huge market there. Around this time, Elon invites JB Straubel, which is their head of technology, as well as one of his understudies, Drew. I don't think I caught his last name. They both come up on stage, and eventually Elon and JB introduce Drew to the crowd. This is the first. His face looks really familiar, so he probably was on some sort of presentation or meeting. I just can't place it. One of the thoughts that has been going through my mind is, there's been these articles that have run recently where JB has not been around as much at the office. Part of me started to think as I was watching them talk, I wonder if this is the beginning of Drew taking over JB's responsibilities and JB moving to something else inside or outside of the company. I don't have any really concrete information on that, but that was what was running through my head as I was watching Drew on stage with JB and Elon. Next, he talks a little bit about the mobile service and how they're continuing to build that out. He says that they have trialed in San Francisco these mobile service vans that will go out to you and fix your car. He said including bumpers and minor collision repair. So it looks like they're wanting to roll out more functionality for this mobile service. He mentioned that the car will proactively order the parts and send them to the closest service center so that these mobile vans can go out and fix it. He continues on that same note and says that they're going to be moving a lot of body repair to in-house. He's already said something like this in, I think, the Q4 2018 earnings call to improve customer service. This is one thing that I've always sort of scratched my head about. In numerous conversations publicly, Elon has put a lot of blame on the third-party body shops. But my impression is, just based on my dealings with Tesla and other owners in the area, is that the bottleneck is not necessarily the auto body shops, but the bottleneck is the parts and the parts availability coming from Tesla. So I've always scratched my head on this, but hopefully more body shops and more body shop options, even if it's Tesla, is a good thing as long as they do a good job. This is a really, really good one. This is about the pickup truck. He said, hope to unveil the pickup truck, hopefully this summer. So if you watched my video from a couple of videos ago about the pickup truck, the last one we had heard was earlier this year on an earnings call where he was saying that he hoped to unveil it this summer. He underscores this goal of revealing the pickup truck this summer. And so it's June now. I know on that last video I said that it was July, and I joked around with someone in the comments by saying that I'm from the future. But it's June now, so when does summer technically end? Does summer technically end in August? Because I think fall begins in mid-September, so I guess technically this could roll into August or maybe beginning of September that we see this pickup truck. But fingers crossed, hopefully I get the invite and I will definitely be there. I will rearrange my schedule to be there at that event because Elon has been pumping this truck up a lot, and it's making me super excited, especially after today. When he's talking about battery cell production and cell constraints, he says something that I sort of floated the idea of in the last video about Maxwell back in May, and that's, he says, quote, "We might get into the mining business," end quote. This doesn't come as a surprise to me because Tesla and Elon Musk are all about vertical integration, and there's a big part of me that thinks that Elon can control a little bit more of that that production process if they buy out the mining facility. So, you know, what you might end up seeing is Tesla buying mining companies to make it more efficient, as well as more sustainable and environmental. So let's say, for example, I'm just sort of going down the road of imagination here, they end up buying the excavators and converting those excavators with Tesla batteries and Tesla motors to power this as one of the ways that they make this process a little bit more environmentally friendly. I really do think that the cobalt thing, and really just mining metals in general, gets on Elon's nerves, and he doesn't like the fact that there is this environmental impact of that. So look for more information about that very, very soon. I'll get to another point here, which is super exciting. Battery and Powertrain Investor Day likely this summer and hopefully by the end of the year. So I think when they have this Battery Investor Day, we're going to know a ton more, not only about cell constraints in cell production, but also what they're going to do with Maxwell and how that will impact the cell production that they need to get to in order to produce more vehicles than they are right now. He says that battery cell production to scale and price per kilowatt hour, as well as full self-driving, should be the most important strategic metrics that investors should be looking at. So essentially, he's scripting out where the most important things are for the company in order for them to grow to that next level are, which are batteries and battery production, as well as full self-driving, which makes a ton of sense. And then after that, he starts to hint at what is coming, I think, in this Battery Investor Day. And he says, quote, "We don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much." And then he sort of looks over at JB, and JB continues to say, but we want to get into large-scale production. And then Elon Musk picks up again and says, as well as cost per kilowatt hour lower and energy density higher. So this Investor Battery Day is going to include, I think, three things. Number one, how they're going to figure out large-scale production of batteries. And I want you to mark my words on this, because I've got a good sort of instinct that this is what he was hinting at. So three things, and maybe I should make a separate video about this, because as Elon said, this is one of the things that investors should be focusing on. Number one is large-scale production. Number two is lowering the cost per kilowatt hour. And number three is increasing the energy density. And if you've been following any of my Maxwell videos, you already know that Maxwell does all three of those things. I'll link up my most recent Maxwell video in case you want to watch. Maybe I'll just link up all of them that I've done, because I think all of them are informative in some way or another. Tesla insurance, he says that is coming soon, and that in order for them to make this announcement or introduce that product, they need to have a small acquisition, and they need to write a little bit of software. In terms of products, upcoming products, this is one that I probably don't know enough about. Put down in the comments if you'd like for me to interview an insurance specialist, someone who works in the insurance industry. I've got someone in mind. You know who you are. He's a Performance Model 3 owner, but he also works in the insurance industry. So comments down below. Do you want to see us break down what that potentially could look like? Would love to get some feedback on that. If not, totally okay. I won't spend any time on that if there's no interest in that. Pickup truck, to be more functional than an F-150, better sports handling than a basic 911. This was some more clarification on something that he said on Ryan McCaffrey's Ride the Lightning podcast. We already know the functionality of an F-150 and handling of a 911, but when I started to look at the 911, I started to wonder, well, which 911? Because there's like the $100,000 one, and then there's like the $250,000 one. So better handling than a basic 911. Makes a lot of sense. He gets a question from Say about the Starlink connection, which is an idea that I've floated. He adds more clarity, and I'm not as bullish on the idea after he said this. However, he did leave a little bit of a door open. He said the single phase array antenna that would need to be put on whatever is receiving that internet connection is about the size of a medium pizza. He said that they could make the antenna smaller, but most likely rely on, he said that they could make it smaller, but they would most likely rely on cell networks for internet connection in their vehicles. And he also said that this is not ideal for high density cities. This is more for the underserved rural areas. I still think they may be working on something, but not ready to make any announcements about this. The fact that he said that they could make a smaller antenna implies that they're thinking about it at least, and potentially working on some concepts to do that. I do think it still makes a lot of sense to bring that internet in-house, as I've mentioned before in the video about Starlink. They're able to control a lot more of their destiny if they own the internet that the vehicles are transmitting data to and from to train the neural net, as well as you just get faster transmission of data. You're able to teach the neural net much quicker if you're not capped at the amount of data that is leaving those cars through cell networks. Anyways, I did a video on that. You can watch that. I'll also link that up in the video description. Rideshare, huge news here. So in that Autonomy Investor Day, he did get a question from someone who posed this very idea of why not letting owners, current Tesla owners, be the sort of bridgeway of this rideshare network before they get into full autonomy. And he said that human drivers driving on the rideshare network makes sense, quote, makes sense. And he said, quote, we will probably do this. This is huge. This means that if you're a Tesla owner and you want to make some extra cash, instead of driving for Uber or Lyft, you can drive on the Tesla rideshare network. And I'm really actually curious to know a lot more about this, because here's one thing that I always sort of hesitate whenever I take a Lyft or an Uber. In fact, I took a Lyft today downtown for a meeting. The reason why I chose Lyft over Uber is because Lyft is purchasing carbon credits to offset that carbon that they're emitting. But imagine if you could select a rideshare network that was all electric vehicles. If you care about the environment, you care about reducing the amount of pollution, I would absolutely go with Tesla. And even if I didn't own a Tesla or didn't have a Tesla, but cared about the environment, I definitely request to get picked up in a Tesla every single time if I had the option. Towing capacity, you get a question about the pickup truck towing capacity from a female, super sweet gal it seemed like. She asked what the towing capacity will be like, because she has horses that she wants to tow, and Elon said it will meet or exceed the capabilities of an F-150. And man, I couldn't help but think he was significantly downplaying the capabilities of this Tesla pickup truck. I know some of you have given me a hard time about my last video about the pickup truck, stating that I think that it could easily tow 80,000 pounds, similar to a semi-truck. So, you know, maybe it won't tow 80,000 pounds, but let's say it tows 20,000 pounds or 30,000 pounds safely. I realize that you've got the braking issue as well. You need to make sure that truck can also brake on that, you know, whatever the gross vehicle weight, towing weight is. So, you know, 20,000 pounds, 15,000 pounds, I think they'd want to top the F-150 most definitely. And, you know, knowing Elon Musk, he likes to sort of put an underscore on some of his specs. So, you know, I'm going to go with 20,000 pound towing capacity. All right, the last bit of information here, he gets a question from someone from India asking about when they will be in India, and Elon says that they will most likely be in the Indian market for selling their vehicles by the end of next year. I think that's right? By next year. So not necessarily by the end of next year, not sure when, but he did say that there are some extra loopholes or hurdles that they have to jump through in order to get into the Indian market to sell their vehicles. I think that's a huge market. They've got bad pollution, so it makes a lot of sense in terms of market share to be able to get into that Indian market. So that's a recap of the things that I thought were really valuable in this shareholder or investor meeting. If you want to watch the full thing, it's 2 hours. You can skip past the first 30 minutes because I talk about some of the voting of some of the new things that were proposed, and that'll get you to the meat of everything, about an hour and a half of presentation. If you have any questions, I'd love to see them in the comments down below, and I appreciate you watching this video. I'll see everyone on the next one.